robbery. Hands in the sky if you got a dream. Learn nothing was blocking me. I was the problem, the only one stopping me. I didn't like it, I had to refocus. Now I'm devoted, I know where I'm going. Controlling emotions, I'm owning the moment. In order to get it, see, you gotta want it. Don't make a living break. Confessions over these 808s. Don't sleep on the key, better stay away. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'ma be the best. Came from the endless lane walk games, bitch with the chest. Beating on my chest, trying to get my rest. Watch me while I flex. Every win is a blessing, and every L is a lesson. So when I run into rejection, I know it's only redirection. I see the blessings right beside me. The chances of quitting are likely. I do it like I'm in my Nikes. Don't make excuses, they never excite me. Quitting was never an option.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Online Speedway Racing League Premier Series, presented by Split Second Broadcasting. I'm Hunter Brittle, alongside my good friends Elliot Henderson and Aiden DuPont, and tonight we'll set the field for the opening points race of the season with the Speedway 200 Duels at Daytona. Now, Elliot, this series is a little different than our other programming because they run the NASCAR Cup Series Gen 4 car, which has a lot pointier of a nose and a lot more horsepower. What kinds of action can we expect here tonight?
Well, the other thing is they're also running a bumpy Daytona, the old version that was paved back in about, or scanned back in about 2008. So it's the original version of Daytona here. So we're going to see a lot of kind of back and forth racing. There'll definitely be at least 2 grooves, potentially 3, depends on how racy these guys want to get. But you may end up seeing that what we used to refer to as a mile high line come into play. A lot of bumps down on the bottom of this track. So the outside might work better depending on how the tires wear out and how much fuel these cars actually consume.
Definitely going to be a little bit different from what we're used to here on Split Second Broadcasting, but it should provide a absolute blast of a night with that's action-packed all night long in these 20-lap duels here at Daytona. With that, we're going to bring in the rest of our cast and crew for tonight's coverage. Joining us now in the Bollywood Motel are fellow commentators Evan Snyder and Ross Brockman, who will handle the coverage of Duel number 2 later on in the evening. Ross, what are you guys watching for in tonight's event?
Well, I think this is gonna be really interesting because there's a lot of cars, it seems, and not a lot of positions for next week's opener. And I think that's gonna make it just a little more interesting to see if people trying to get into the show and be a little aggressive. I don't know. I know this version of the Gen 4 car, there's some potential to maybe bump draft a little bit, but I think that that if you do too much of it, next thing you know, you're gonna have a big problem. So I think it's gonna be really fun to see who's willing to take some chances to try to get into the show and try to get up front, and ultimately just have some great racing. Hopefully a good one tonight.
Definitely, you did mention the pointier nose here on these cars will definitely play a factor here tonight. It's really hard to bump draft in these cars. Unlike the current generation NASCARs and trucks that we have on the iRacing service, because of that pointy nose, you get up underneath the car in front of you and you can just lift the back of that car right around. And more than likely, they're going either left or right. They're not going forward. As Elliot, I know you've had quite a few instances of that happening to yourself with the most amount of experience on iRacing here between the 5 of us.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how difficult these guys, or how these guys work with the draft and how much they really want to bump draft. To Ross's point, the cars can bump draft. They are eventually, I think, getting a facelift to allow the bumpers to line up a little bit better as they did in real life. But for now, you can push. You just need to be really careful about it, and especially going through the corners, especially with the bumps here. Not going to want to be right up on the tail of the guy in front of you. So we're going to have to watch and see. And at the same time, it'll kind of make the cars a little bit tight in the corner and push them up. And it could produce that 3-wide racing or put guys down in the middle and kind of make some dicey racing, which is what we're used to seeing with these cars. And we're hoping to see a little bit of that tonight with these short formats trying to set the field.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if these guys get 3 wide, look out here as we've got the format here for tonight's event on your screen in front of you. The top 2, the order for these duels themselves were set in single car qualifying in a separate session, and what you are seeing right now is what will set the inside lane in duel number 1 will set the inside lane of the main event next weekend, rather. So on pole here tonight, rather, I'll say that on pole for this race in particular is Cole Freilich, who has won the pole also for next week, and we will bring him in here right now. Cole Freilich, it's Brittle and the boys up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Well, we're just getting ready to get set here to watch you guys go battle it out for 20 hard laps here. What are the thoughts as we get ready to kick off this opening duel here, which you've put yourself on pole for? So you're in a really good spot to continue your momentum and carry everything into the race next weekend. What's going through your mind here as you get ready to roll off pit road?
Just try to lead all 20 laps. I mean, we're going to try to keep the number 15 kart chaser machine out front. I don't know. I've kind of gotten used to leading this week. So I'm bound to end up in a wall at some point, but hey, if we tear up the car tonight, I mean, we start on pole next week. So, I mean, we can kind of go for it tonight. No real repercussion for starting on pole now. So that's at least a big worry of mine that's out of the way. I mean, I was locked in anyway, but it's always good to start out shotgun on the field.
Absolutely, definitely want to have that locked up as much as tight as you can, and you've definitely got it locked up there with that first starting position there. How are you feeling about the super speedway race, and specifically this bumpy Daytona and this high-powered car here? It's we talked about it in the pre-race. It's a little bit different from what's on the other official iRacing calendars and what they currently run in NASCAR. How are you feeling about handling all that power in this bumpy surface?
I feel pretty good. I mean, last season, I forget we do half year seasons, but yeah, last season I felt really good. Me and my teammate at the time, we worked really good together. So don't really have any teammates this year, but I got a lot of help and a lot of friends. So it should go good. I mean, it's going to be pretty aggressive here. So if it gets a little too aggressive, I'm just going to bow out of the pack.
Can't really blame you right there. It can get really dicey in a hurry with just the nature of this cars and the nature of this racing. So it looks like you guys are getting ready to roll off pit road here. So we'll let you get back to the drivers chat. But thank you so much for talking to us, and good luck tonight.
All right, appreciate it, guys, and welcome to the league.
Thank you, sir. And with that, the cars have started to roll off of pit road here, so we'll take you through the starting lineup here in duel number 1. Starting on pole, we just talked to him, is Cole Freilich there in the number 15, and to his outside, Jack Painter in the number 97.
And starting in third is going to be John Daniels, and to his outside is Henry Kaloof.
Starting in the 5th position will be Colton Lindauer, and with Caden Reif to his outside in the 6th spot.
And Mo Perry will line up in 7th with Tyler Seville to the outside in 8th.
Luke Breitschoff from Texas will roll off in 9th with Jonah Malashak rolling off in the 10th position to his outside.
Find out if Bryden and Colton are brothers or father-son combo or what's going on there, but Bryden Lindauer will roll off 11th. Hunter Waters will roll off 12th.
Always good to see a family affair here in iRacing and on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. Behind them will be Nick Roten in the number 60 car, and to his outside, Chris Pervalarikis.
Dominic Bettini will roll off 15th, and Robert Dorman 16th.
Emery Spence takes up the 17th spot in that number 12 car, with Nathan Kiani to his outside in the 18th spot.
And Gavin Fitzgerald and Roberto Ramirez will round out your top 20.
A little bit of a familiar face there in Gavin Fitzgerald. Definitely one to watch all night long here on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. As the field rounds off in turn number 3, heading towards the green flag, the last 4, Justin Knutson, Michael Deitch, Sean Begley, and Tyler Lanen will round out this field here, all trying to make it in to the main event that will be next weekend here, right here next week on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. The pace truck dives, makes that hard left down on the pit road here. Cole brings him to the start finish line. The green flag is out. We are racing here in OSRL.
Yeah, I think we're just in an Australian server, so everything's backwards here right now. But Cole Freilich gets a nice little run outside. But right now, Jack Painter and Henry Kaloof are working that outside lane. If we butcher names, please get back to us and let us know going into next week.
All these cars getting spun up there as they rocket down the back straightaway here, still side by side up here for the top spot. A little 3-wide action farther back in the pack as people try and shuffle around, get to a safer spot in the pack, as we've got 20 laps in this event, and you know they're going to be going hard for every single one of them here, because this race here will determine your starting spot for the inside lane of next week's race, and determine whether or not you go home or not, as Cole brings him around to lead lap 1. And no, it's going to be Jack Painter who's going to edge him out there, and he will lead lap 1 as they rocket back down into turn 1.
Yeah, you can see a lot of bobbing and weaving out of the O2. John Daniels in the middle of the corner. That bottom lane is not very easy to run, especially tucked up behind someone trying to make sure that you guys get a push. You can see that they get a really good run to the middle of the corner. Cole's actually going to be nearly clear of Painter, but here comes that outside back on the outside lane. Those 3 up top are really working well together and keeping that momentum up. As you can see, Painter clears Cole going into turn 3. He'll cut down. He'll take the lead away from him right now.
Painter cuts down, and he will retain sole possession of this lead here as they come off of turn number 4 for this second lap here. And Elliot, we talked about it in the pre-race show about maybe the emergence of a top lane here, but really it comes down to how much help you've got pushing you and pushing the car in front of you if you're somebody that's farther back in the pack.
Yeah, at the end of the day, these cars aren't as aero dependent, but you line them up enough and they will go pretty quick around here. So if you can get a whole bottom group going, that top lane is not really going to work out as well as you might think. As now Cole Fraley going to go to the top to get around Jack Painter. These guys just going to toss back and forth and put, I believe that's Henry on the outside, still putting in the work to try to push these guys around. And you're going to get that bit of a conveyor belt where the second guy in line is just going to go to the top. They're going to wreck in turn 3.
We've got a caution as we've got a spin in the back of the pack. That's the 80 car of Bettini here as he gets sent into the outside fence backwards. The 22 of Knutson involved as well. So early on, we're on lap 4 of this event, and we've already had our first caution. Guys are going to start dropping like flies in this one, Elliot.
Yeah, and you can see that's exactly what I was talking about with the O2 kind of going up the track earlier. These bumps, it just shoved the 80 of Bettini up the track a bit. Didn't really give anywhere for the 49 to go. That's Chris, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce that last name. But old Chris Pervelerkus right there just got right underneath the 80 of Bettini, and around the 80 went. And that may be the end of his race, unfortunately. Only a few more cars involved, 3 or 4 back there with the 22 and some others. But they look like they're going to be able to continue on here. Not too much damage done to their vehicles. As
we've got our replay up in here, and it really looks like a bottleneck that happened there. We got that accordion effect on the bottom lane, and it just checked everybody up. And then the 80 just got sent. He made a split-second decision to go to the outside, but there was already a car there, and around he went. So big action already happening here early on as we are under caution for the first time in this 20-lap event here. As we get one more look at it, and yeah, it's just another stack up there on the bottom. So 4, 5, 6 cars involved in this one early on. Going to be hard to soldier on after all that contact, especially at a such a drafting-based track like this one is.
So I want to just point out really quick, Tyler Landon has made his way from 24th up to 9th on the field. Biggest gain so far, without a doubt, after making 9 starts last season, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s on the season. So want to see how much further that one car can get up through the field. But Tyler going from literally last all the way up in the top 10 into a lock-in position. Looking forward to next week's race.
Definitely one to watch here with big movement early on is that Tyler Landon in the number 1 car. Like you said, starting way back in the 24th position, but he's already moved himself up into a locked-in spot here. And let's just go. We didn't really get to go back through the format here for this one. The top 11 of each duel will automatically advance, or the top 11 finishers of each duel will automatically advance, and then after that, it goes to the 6 highest drivers in last season's points who did not finish in that top 11. They will make up the next 6 spots, and then the final spot will be the sponsor provisional, who is already locked in and has been chosen by the sponsor of next week's race at Daytona. So there's a little rundown of what the goals are for everybody. Basically, it's going to be top 11 for just about everybody, and then if you didn't finish there, maybe you can lean on your performance from last season, but We will know all that after the completion of the second duel. I want to bring in our pit road reporter, Aiden DuPont, right now. He's been listening to the driver chat. Aiden, AD, have you been hearing anything out there after that recent wreck?
Just a lot of discussion about the racecraft of their fellow drivers. You know, it's early on in the race and tempers are a little high. Everybody wants to push to the front, and you just get a stack up like that. Nothing too crazy between drivers. We had a few people come down pit road. That is the 49 of Chris Pervilarakis, the 22 of Justin Knutson, the 12 of Emery Spence, as well as, who did I miss here? That is the 80 of Dominic Bettini. They're all just repair and damage, no tires taken, just gassing up, repairing their bent sheet metal, and getting back out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that report, AD. We'll be throwing it back to our pit road reporter here as we go on in tonight's event throughout both duels.
We've got some contact.
In the back of the pack there, that's the blue car of, I believe, who is that back in the pack? That's the...
Michael Deitch.
Michael Deitch, the number 57 car just got either got turned by a fellow competitor or
It looked like he locked up as he was catching the back half of this field. He didn't realize how fast he was going. Locked up to avoid hitting, I believe that's Hunter Waters on the outside lane.
oh no, so we just got a replay on the screen. It's the 33, the Old Spice car of... I'm not sure who that is because the 33 does not match the number that is being run right there.
It's Michael Dyke. He almost ran over, I believe it was Hunter Waters in the top lane, and he just put the brakes on and was able to not really do any damage to a lot of people. He did end up hitting the outside wall, but doesn't affect him.
Well, let's hope he can soldier on with that kind of contact here. Elliot, you're more familiar with these with the model of these cars. Is contact like that going to be a race ruiner here with a high power?
It's not going to be good for him. It's going to be a lot of, he's going to have to, he will not be able to lead a line with that type of front end damage. But as far as where he's at, running towards the back there, he can still make up ground and make moves. But he's not going to be able to sit ahead of a few cars and make passes work. But we'll get ready to get this one restarted. These truck's about to pull off, and we'll get going again for another 15-ish laps.
Yep, 15 to go here. It'll be 14 to go when they take the green flag this time. Pace truck dives onto pit road this time. It's going to be Jack Painter this time leading him to the green flag. Green flag is out. We're back under racing here in Daytona.
Yeah, really staggered start this time. Not as much packed up action that we saw earlier, and it's going to give Cole Freilich the chance to get to the bottom. A quick reminder is Cole Freilich ends up inside the top 11, that the 12th place finisher will end up advancing into the main event next week. So a lot of these guys are kind of hoping that Cole ends up there and that advancement slot goes back to 12th. But it looks like right now with the inside line packing up the way they are, that outside line is going to go backwards in a hurry.
Definitely looks to be a inside line dominance here, at least early on after this restart. Now here comes the outside line, led by one Cole Freilich here on the outside here. He looks to power around the 97. We said that we talked to him in the pre-race. He was going to be aggressive because he's got nothing to lose. He is locked in his pole position for next week's event, so why not go for it? And he's going to have it here as they flash back across the line. Give Cole Freilich the lead as we've got 3 wide action here going through the tri-oval.
Tell you what, Caden Reif is a really good pusher, really up on the back of the 15 of Cole Freilich, and they're both nearly clear going into turn 1. As now they're all up in the outside wall. There's a car back there just keeping in the outside wall. They all kind of clear them and keep going on. No harm, no foul back there as Freilich and Jack Painter still try to sort out who's actually going to lead these laps. But the 02 and the 97 making that bottom work all by themselves right now.
Absolutely, but here comes that topside lane. They're a lot more lined up there on the outside, but it doesn't matter. The 97 and the 02 powering back on the inside here. They're going to make a challenge for this lead when they flash across the stripe one more time here. And Elliot, we talked about this bumpy surface, and you saw it when the 3 wide resulted in a car going in the outside. Look at when they go down in this corner here, just the massive bumps that they've got at this old Daytona surface, and it lends itself. You definitely got to keep your space. It's not going to be like the packed up racing that you see in the truck or the cup car.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that 02. You can see he almost slides up into the 15 right there. He's the one that kind of can't seem to really hold it right on that yellow, and I'm not sure if it's because he's trying to get air to the car, make sure you can see around the 97, or what is going on there as they try to make it 3 wide down the backstretch, but he's the one that doesn't really keep it pinned. That could cause an issue later on. But right now, everything's still kind of moving the way it needs to. But there's that one. That's Taylor Lonin back there on the outside lane, as he's going to get up in the outside wall and go backwards now.
That outside lane, it was aggressive and high risk, high reward in it. And unfortunately, the risk did not pay out that time, as he's going to go to the back of this pack and have to try and claw his way all the way back up there. That's a lot of positions that he just lost. But I believe, based on what we've seen in that early performance, he can make his way back up there, especially if he continues to make moves like that here. As back out in the front, it's still a drag race between the 15 and the 97, with Cole Freilich on the outside, edging ahead right now as they flash down the back straightaway.
Yeah, I really think that top three on the outside between, I believe it's Freilich and Reif and Maloof back there, those three are really good at staying packed together and staying tight against each other, and I think that's going to prevail overall. And as I say that, Painter looks like he's going to lead this lap, but if those three can keep doing what they're doing, they're going to put the bottom lane in a really vulnerable spot, and someone's going to have to make a choice as to where they want to be.
Halfway this time, 10 to go to secure your spot into next week's main event here in the OSRL Premier Series. It's still the 15 and the 97. Like you said, the 97 and the 02 just absolutely putting it all out there. As it appears the 41 is going to dip out of line here. He's going to go to the back. It's looking to get a little too dicey up there for him as he jumps back in line. Hopefully can stay on the stay within the draft of this pack, and based on what I'm seeing here, 3 wide farther on back, he's going to have that big draft because of that big hole that's getting punched in the air with these guys being 3 wide. As we get a little lean on them back there in the pack, they're going to hang on to it for now as they flash back across the line this time, but things are starting to get dicey, Elliot, as the laps wind down.
Yeah, and that was Mo Perry jumping out of line. A little bit of connectivity issues as well. Maybe they just asked if he could get out of there and not really cause a problem, but he's going to have a chance if these guys all start wrecking. It's you know, you never know what happens on the white flag with these guys all packed up together. But, I mean, this 0-2, I've been saying the outside's doing better. But, man, John Daniels has proven right now as to how good of a pusher he is. He has not left Jack Painter at all during this race, and he's just making that bottom lane work. As Tyler Lennon looking on the outside again towards the back of this pack. It looks like you really want to try to make a third lane, but right now they're all stagnant. 2 by 2 all the way through as Painter now clears for that lead.
One car in the back goes spinning off of him. That's the 12 of Spence. And there's going to be a wreck now. That's the 33 car that we talked about earlier. I believe that was that Waters that is now just spinning around on the inside on the entry to pit road there. Caution is out, and we're going to have a shootout here when they get back going green. So this is huge here. It's Michael Deitch, rather. So big implications for his efforts to get qualified into next week's race. You can see the damage there as we're going to get a replay for you right here. But heavy contact to the nose of that 33 car.
I was saying the nose was the only thing that was actually messed up initially, so definitely didn't do himself any favors there. But yeah, you can see how punched in it is from this point of view already. And then right there, the 22 comes across the track, or I'm sorry, that's the 12, and nowhere really for the 33 to go. And Deitch just kind of gets sent, locks it down, but he will end up in the inside wall pretty hard. It didn't visibly do any more damage than what was already there, so he might just be okay. But these cars can take a beating, and you never really know what's going to happen. So unfortunately, we're going to have to see how that works out for him, but he's not going to have a lot of time to catch back up here.
Definitely going to have not a whole lot of laps to go here as we get you one last replay look at it. 3 wide racing, and you can see the bumps that we talked about. And for the 12, unfortunately, of Spence, it just did not work out. He was the odd man out and ended up with contact that sent Deitch down into the inside wall there. So pit road's open this time. I doubt we see anybody that doesn't have damage take it, but Aiden, we're going to bring you back in one time here. Are you hearing anything about pit strategy as the laps wind down here in Daytona?
Nobody's on their radio about pit strategy. Not even one mention of the wreck. So I'm watching right now. It looks like we've got 5 cars coming down pit road. A lot of multiples from the previous caution. That is Emery Spence, as well as Chris Pervilarakis, Luke Breitschoff, Dominic Bettini again, Michael Deitch, as we mentioned.
Sounds good. Thank you, Aiden, for that, keeping us on top of all the pit action here on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. As we continue to pace around here, Elliot, what do you think think's going through these guys' minds as it's only going to be a handful of laps, and we'll get the math when they come around here. But it's looking like probably 5 to go. So you're looking at about a 5-lap dash, Elliot. Do we see any? We got to see some crazy moves from the back for some drivers to make their way towards the front. What do you think, based on what we've seen? The only guy making moves has been Tyler Lanen, trying to make the outside lane work. Do we see more people go with him now?
Yeah, and that was almost his race right there. You saw the 12 was actually the one that got up into him when the 22 and 12 kind of made contact. So almost watched it all just go away in a heap. But you got to look right around that cut line with Jonah Malshak, Gavin Fitzgerald, Nick Roden, Robert Dorman, all back there right around that 11th, 12th, 13th position. On this restart, you got to pick the right line, and you got to be able to move forward and get yourself up in. I wouldn't be comfortable until I'm in the top 6, really, but you want to be up inside that top 10 at a minimum. Feel comfortable about trying to progress, especially with Cole Freilich up here. That kind of gives you a one-car lead away, so you can finish 12th, but you really want to be up inside that top 10 to be pretty content with where you are. But don't forget about these Lindauer boys. I don't know, again, what their relation is, but they're next to each other, and, you know, teammates can go somewhere. And if those guys form an outside lane, they hook up with Tyler Landon out there, we might be able to see some guys go to the front, form a third lane, and make this really interesting at the end. So there's definitely some strategies to be played. It's just going to depend on how aggressive these guys want to be.
Definitely something to watch for. And yeah, like you said, if I were a driver in this, I would feel comfortable in that top 6, and I wouldn't, if it were me, I wouldn't want to be racing that hard, knowing that my position was locked in. I'd be more focused rather on keeping the guys behind me and maintaining my position. So we'll have to see how dicey the front gets versus the back here, as we are now at the 1 to go this time. So when they come back to the stripe, it'll be 5 laps to go, a 5-lap shootout here to determine who makes it in to the Speedway 200 next Thursday on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. Jack Painter, Cole Freilich, it's been their show all night long, but the 2 guys behind him have been just as responsible, if not more, for keeping them up there and maintaining those cars out front. The 02 of John Daniels and the 98 of Caden Reif. Those guys have been putting on a show for us all night long. We'll have to see if they can continue to hold that position here, as there's definitely going to be charges coming from the back.
Yeah, you can also see just how difficult it is to pass. You got to wonder if those guys maybe try to make a move at the end just to kind of, you know, increase their starting position in the race. Every position is a position forward in the starting order on that bottom lane. So right now, Cole Freilich would start on pole with Jack Painter starting 3rd, John Daniels 5th, Caden Reif 7th, and so forth. And right now, you got to wonder if anyone's going to go up there and make a move, or if a lot of these guys up in the top 6 are kind of content, and all the movement's going to happen right around that 10th position.
Absolutely, and definitely keep an eye on that 4th row there, the Lindauer boys, the 42 and the 80, or the 43 and the 82 rather. They will have something to say about this, and we'll have to see if they get hooked up together and go places here as the pace truck brings them back down towards the start-finish line. We'll make that hard left down on the pit road, and we will get ready to get set to go racing here back again. Jack Painter's going to lead them to the line. Green flag is out. We're away, and those 2 boys get away, and they're going to have a car length lead on both of their lanes as we head off into 1.
Outside lane did not get a good start. The 02 of John Daniels got right up to the back of Jack, and it kind of gave him the boost to go forward, but John wasn't exactly ready for Jack to go when he did. Here comes the top coming back, though, as Caden Reif is going to get to the back end of that 15, and they're all stacked right on top of each other again, but they're already trying to go 3 wide towards the back. And guess who? The number 1, Tyler Lanen, trying to look towards the outside here and make things happen.
It is absolutely go time here. We are under 5 laps to go. Make it 4.5 here as they go down the back straightaway. So definitely the action starting to ramp up here as the 59 takes a look to the inside of the 42 there with in that row there with Tyler Lanen. So obviously it's go time here as they come around to complete this lap. It's going to be 4 to go when they hit the line here. And I'm not even sure that the 15 of Cole Freilich will lead this lap.
Yeah, I don't think you're really going to have a choice at this point. If you're back around 6th, 7th, 8th, you're just going to kind of have to sit where you are and hope that it works out for you, and you guys don't really make any contact. But that race for 10th is already happening. They're 3 wide back there trying to make moves while these leaders just kind of sit content where they are.
Absolutely, 3 by 3 back in the pack there. You've got the 80, I believe that's the 83, no, sorry, the 23 and the 1 of Tyler Lanen there on the outside. Now Tyler Lanen's got some help. Can he get anybody Can he make any forward progress with somebody up there to help him? There's door banging down to the inside. Heavy contact, and it's almost getting squeezed up in the outside lane there, as now we see a third car join that outside lane. Action definitely starting to ramp up here. 3 to go this time.
I was gonna say they're not really giving each other a lot of room here with that 3-wide scenario, and it's kind of killed that outside lane. And now everybody's packing up. Here comes the middle lane up through the middle, and they're just shuffling people out. But right now, we've got a couple guys up in the outside wall. Jack Painter is clear for the lead. John Daniels putting in the work on that bottom lane.
Absolutely, John Daniels there pushes back out in front, pushes the 97 back out in front there, but here comes the 15 on the top side. It's just a drag waste down the back into turn 3. There is now they're 3 wide, still back farther in the pack. I don't know which race to watch, Elliot, the front or the mid pack here. Both of them are providing a ton of excitement as we've got heavy contact there off of the corner, and 2 to go this time.
I say the front's going to provide a great finish. We know that, but this run for the back, right around 10th, 11th, 12th, we've got Norman and Knudsen right on 11th and 12th. Waters and Ramirez right on the outside looking in. These guys all packed up on top of each other. They're going to have to go to the top. Tyler Lanin to the top once again. Down the backstretch, we'll see how far he can get forward. He's right outside on the cusp. Crossed the line last time by, right in 16th.
3 wide, and Tyler Lanin's leading the charge. He's the only one up there. Got a little bit of help from the 41 back there behind him. He makes a jump to another lane there, sets himself right there on that cusp, as he's still going to be 3 wide with the 49 and the 22. Rather, as they come off the corner, he's still going to have the momentum, move him up even more spots to this one. White flag this time. It's the 97 of Jack Painter is out front, but Cole Freilich 2 is outside. It's going to be a drag race all the way around this one, Elliot.
That decision might save Tyler as he comes across the line in 11th that time by. He's just got to avoid hitting the outside wall. He's got to make 2 more corners here as he comes a little bit closer now down the backstretch. They are 3x3 back there for about the 8th on back positions, all kind of nose to nose at the front, as now Cole Freilich to the point.
The inside lane there just died, and the 97 and the 02 had to pick up that middle lane as we've got contact on the inside there. They're going around this time. It's going to be a huge wreck here. Multiple drivers' days are done. Cole Freilich's going to have the lead on the pack. Can he hold off Jack Painter here? It's going to be a 3 wide to the line. Who's going to get it? It's John. No, never mind. It's Caden Reif there. Who got the last transfer spot? Nick Roten got it. Tyler Lanin is the first one out.
He's not, though, because Cole Freilich finished 3rd. Tyler Lanin will lock himself in with that 12th position. That 12th place finish will be good enough to put him through.
What a wild finish here in this one to bring it on, and we've got notes from the race director that that finish will be reviewed with the contact and the crashing that happened there in turn 3 and 4. So definitely some scrutiny there onto that one to see who will get in and who will not. But for right now, I believe that it's Caden Reif who does not care. He has successfully locked his way in for sure as we look at that top 11 there. So what a race, Elliot. And this is just duel number 1.
I mean, how about that move by Reif, though, to go to the top right there and just kind of split Freilich and just kind of move all around him. Cole really had no friends there at the end, but again, he's locked in. Didn't really matter to him too much, and Painter trying to do all he can, led most of this race, it felt like, but it was Reif who ended up making it work. I said there might be moves made at the end, and there were right off of turn 4. But great job by all these guys up in the top 5 to make that clean. A little bit of contact back in the back, but I think that was more or less these guys just trying to race really hard, 3-4 wide, trying to get back to the line. And you can see the finish right here. Painter trying to get back to the inside, but it was Freilich in the middle. But Reif gets the push right here from, I believe that's Henry Kaloof, that stuck with him all night. And he ends up pushing Caden Reif around Painter and Freilich and putting him across the line first.
Reif will take home the checkered flag in duel number 1 here, and a little bit of rundown there. You can see it right there. The 98 of Caden Reif is your winner, with the 97 of Jack Painter coming in second behind him. Cole Freilich takes home 3rd, and Henry Kaloff, like you said, pushing Reif to that victory there. He will come home in the 4th position. So I can say confidently that those guys have made their way into this race. Everyone else, though, back in the pack, there was so much action. We're going to have to wait and see for the race control review to see who gets into this event, because there was just so much going on there at the end.
Yeah, that last lap wreck involved guys that were on the outside looking in, like Gavin Fitzgerald, Sean Begley, um, Michael Deitch, and a few others back there that we're just trying to go back and look at. But they're all right there, right around that 10th place run. You can see the 14, the 82, all getting kind of beat around there. But unfortunately, that'll end their nights and not lock them into the show.
Definitely not the way to start out the season here in the OSRL. But looking back on last year's points, Elliot, you don't necessarily have to make all the starts to be a championship contender. The person who finished third in the points structure last year, Henry Grindell, only had 14 starts in his campaign, and he only finished 200 points back from Joshua Chin, the eventual champion. So it's not all out for those guys who haven't. It's not all over and done. You don't just throw the season out just yet for those guys who aren't going to make the race next week. But it definitely helps to be in for this race, and it's the biggest one too here at Daytona. It's one that everybody wants to win.
Yeah, with how these points work, it's interesting because Chris Pervalarkis is actually going to be able to make it. I believe it was top 7 in points are in, and he finished 15th, so he's on the outside, but he was 6th in points last season, so he is ultimately a lock in tonight's race. So we'll be able to get that running order, I believe, by the end of the night after Duel 2. But for now, just know that the top 12 from tonight were locked in, including Cole Freilich. Tyler Lonin was your last transfer spot there.
And with that, we'll bring back in the guys who are going to call duel number 2, and Evan Snyder and Ross Brockman. Guys, what did you see in that action-packed duel number 1 there, and what are you going to be looking for in duel number 2?
I mean, that was, especially towards the end, you nailed it right on the head there, Hunter. But how wild he got, guys getting shuffled around a little bit, a little beating and banging. We mean, that's Daytona for you. I think, honestly, we're going to see a little bit of the same going into this duel number 2. Of course, as well as how close these guys can be from mate to break and making it into the show. And I definitely think we're going to see it get a little squirrely as well for this race number 2.
Absolutely. Definitely going to be an action-packed one as well coming up here in duel number 2. I think it's an interesting point to bring up in NASCAR that you see out on the track on Sundays. The duels at Daytona one duel tends to be crazy and the other tends to be calm. So I don't think we're going to see that in this one, seeing as it is virtual cars, but something to watch out for. Maybe might see a little bit calmer this time. Maybe those guys in duel number 2 have seen duel number 1 and said, okay, well, maybe we need to take a step back here and make sure that we can all at least make it to lap 20 to try and have a shot at this rather than wrecking on lap 4.
Yeah, honestly, I think you might obviously want to survive and be there at the end, but if you're kind of running in that towards that little mid pack, kind of up higher in that mid pack when you're maybe 5th, 6th position, maybe about 2 laps to go, you try to make a move and try to work your way up. I mean, I think of course you want to lean on the side of caution, but obviously you don't want to be too far out of it to not keep your hat in the ring, with 5 laps to go, like how we saw here at the end of the race.
And something that I picked up on as the race went on is that it's very hard to get a run going from the mid pack, taking it up 3 wide on the top lane. A lot of the cars right around 10th place or so were just stuck. They couldn't get going anywhere. They might try the top lane, but it really wasn't working for them.
Definitely. We did talk about that. Like you said, it was hard. It was a little bit harder to pass here on this bumpier surface, these higher powered cars. It's just hard to keep a handle on them. And so when you've got a limited amount of space, there's going to be an increased risk for some beating and banging. We saw it all 20 laps practically in duel number 1 there. It's just limited space and a limited amount of control, and it lends itself to a lot of action and a lot of contact in this one. And it for some guys, it unfortunately ended their nights, ended their campaigns for the first race of the season. But for others, it made their nights, and I'm sure they will absolutely continue to use that as we go forward here.
Yeah, just a little beating and banging is not enough to really lose a lot of the draft and the horsepower in these Gen 4 cars. You can keep up with the back of the pack. Can't make any moves. You're not going anywhere, but at least you're a couple seconds, less than a second off of them. It's very hard, like I said, making runs, like we all said, to make runs on the top lane. But what I really noticed with a lot of the wrecked cars in the duel number 1 is that they could get back on track and keep up with the pack. Nobody was falling really far behind.
That is true. That's a good point to bring up with an Elliot. Maybe you can shed a little more light on that with the higher powered cars and just the not really the aero dependency of them, but just how fast they're going. They punch a little bit bigger hole in the air. We saw some guys drop off, and they can stay a little bit more hooked up to the draft here rather than in some slower cars where you might drop off the back there a little easier.
I think the thing that's really interesting with the Gen 4 car as well is the accordion effect that happens. We don't really talk about it a lot in the Cup cars and anything anymore, but they're very similar to the truck, where those guys at the back, we kind of saw it towards the end. It didn't really rear its ugly head until then, but the fact that these guys go from 2, single file lanes quite comfortable to, as soon as you form that third lane, you get a lot of disturbance and a lot of different pulls from different areas, and these guys all kind of go from, spread out to on top of each other very quickly. So I think, this car lends itself to be very dangerous in that aspect, and they kind of help themselves with the fact they're running bumpy Daytona, and we're not at Talladega where they can't run 4 wide or anything, but cars can all drive up on each other very quickly. And we kind of saw that towards the end, but, to your point, if you're not really heavily damaged, you can keep up pretty well. It's just whenever you get that front end damage, so 33 of Michael Deitch have, it's going to be difficult to lead a line. But overall, these cars handle pretty well in air, and a little bit of damage isn't really going to take you out quite yet, especially because we're only talking about trying to finish in the top 12 and the top half of the field. It's not really going to take you out of contention for what we're doing here tonight.
Definitely, and one person who can probably speak to the action that was happening there in the mid pack is Tyler Seville, who finished in the 6th position here in duel number 1. He has successfully locked his way in. We're going to try and get a quick word with him. Tyler, it's Brittle and the boys up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, man, congratulations for locking yourself in. Solid 6th place finish there. It looked like you were smack in the middle of all that action there that happened there on the last lap. Take us through what was going through your mind. Were you focused out front, or were your eyes on the rearview mirror trying to protect the position that you had from the guys who were charging from the back?
I'd say a little bit of both. I knew I was in a good spot on the bottom there. My teammate Hunter Waters in the 3. He had to push up there on that last restart to try to get in the top 10 there. So I knew that people were going to be pushing. I knew they were going to eventually go 3 wide. But thankfully, I was pretty confident that if I just held my line on the bottom, I should have been in good shape.
It definitely seemed like that. The bottom lane. We talked about it in the pre-race. We thought we had an inkling that the top lane might prevail if you got enough cars up there, but it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of people trying to get up there and make that mile high line work. So the bottom definitely won to prevail here all night long, and you definitely made it work here coming home with that 6th place finish.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good finish. We got 2 out of the 3 of my teammates in, and we're pulling for Jeff Yunish in this second duel here.
Definitely will absolutely keep an eye on him in this one. Tyler, thank you so much for talking to us, and congratulations once again on locking yourself in, and good luck next week.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
And that was Tyler Seville, who finished 6th in duel number 1 here, as duel number 2 appears to be getting on its way up, and we will look to get our guys in there and ready to call that one. A couple of familiar faces in this one. We had Gavin Fitzgerald from GLR fame in the last one here. Didn't have as good of a night as he would have liked to, but Ashton Lawson will be in duel number 2 here. Definitely a familiar face in this one, known to make noise in the truck series on Tuesday night, so we'll see what he can do in this Gen 4 car here on Thursday nights.
Yeah, but that's one guy I'm kind of excited to see, because we know, obviously, if you are a frequent viewer here on Split Second Broadcasting, Gavin Fitzgerald, Ashton Lawson, a pretty familiar name in their own regards, and Ashton, won a race this season in the Great Lakes Truck Series, and hopefully to see that he makes this transfer here and gets into the show for next week as well.
Yeah, guys, I just wanted to add a couple things. Just going into the second race now, it's interesting. The lineup as I was watching the first race was really a lot of drivers in that top 6 that were already locked in with a points provisional were in that first race and actually transferred through a finish position. So now it opened up about 3 other drivers in this race that are now in a points position because of that. So do those guys know? Are they doing the math? Does that change their strategy here? That includes Isaac Johnson, Steven Gibson, Nolan Sanford. These are guys that are now getting their chance to race their way in. They probably all night have been thinking, I may have to get to the top 10. Now they don't. They are locked in unofficially with the points situation. So it'll be interesting to see if any agendas change because of the results from the first race.
Definitely a points question already coming into effect here in just the duels in this event to try and get locked in to the main event for the start of the season next week here. And we will have all that coverage on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. As you can see, we have the format for you there up on the graphic there. So the top 2, once again, in single car qualifying, were already locked into the race. That was that would have been the Cole Freilich, who won the pole, and then to his outside will be, jog my memory, guys, who is to the outside of Cole Freilich?
Would be AJ Green.
AJ Green, he will be to the outside. Those 2 guys are already locked in, and then we just determined the inside lane. Duel number 1 will determine the inside lane. Duel number 2, the upcoming duel, will determine the outside lane for the start of this. And then you look back at those pink positions there, the points. The highest 6 drivers in the Season 7 points not locked in. So it definitely pays to stick around in this league, and we can appreciate that. Some guys with giving some credit to some guys with some longevity in this one. They will see their way into this one who didn't necessarily qualify in that or race their way in those top 11 spots.
Yeah, and Ross brought up a good point for some of these guys that do have, possibly unofficially the points to make it into the show next week. I honestly don't think, probably don't want to bank on that too much because, again, this is Daytona. Anything can happen at this racetrack. That's just super speedway racing when you look at things. So I think, honestly, you try to want to kind of fight for those top 10, top 11 positions if you can and not really want to leave it up to if your points from last season are going to lock you into this race. And sure, of course, you have to survive first, which is going to be the big key in this one if you are one of those guys hoping to get locked in via points. But I think that's not something you want to bank on here going into duel number 2.
Definitely not. And it looks like we've got on-track activity here. The practice session is just about wrapping up, so we'll get ready to get you gridded here. We're going to hand it off to our fellow broadcasters in this one for duel number 2. Evan Snyder, Ross Brockman, and Aiden DuPont on the call. Take it away, boys.
Thank you so much, Brittle. Evan Snyder here, Ross Brockman with me, and of course we got Aiden DuPont down there in the pits giving us all other information as well. And it's going to be an exciting one here, Ross. I'm excited, first time here at Split Second, and I'm excited especially to call it with you in this one as we saw a very action-packed first race. And what are we trying to look for here going to this duel number 2 for some of those guys that are on the border of being locked in this one, Ross?
Yeah, the lucky thing for you and I is we get to watch the other one before we do this one. So it's been awesome to kind of see how they did that first 20 laps with that group, because I think this one will be very similar. I think the biggest thing that I learned is if you're competing out there, you probably want to start up front. A lot of the guys that did start up front stayed up there and were able to, once they get 2x2, it's kind of almost like it blocks the rest of the pack from getting up there and getting track position. So I think that when you look at top 11 trying to get into the top 10, top 11 to transfer, that's a big part of it. Trying to make sure you can get up there. It's really tough when you're not in that top 6 or 7. So it seemed like once those 6 or 7 were kind of battling for the win, everything on back was crazy. At times going 2 or 3 wide towards the end there, trying to get to the transfer. I think that's 2 races in one, a race win and potentially the transfer spot. It'll be really fun to do it again and watch it here with you.
Yeah, and the other thing too that Elliot and Hunter also brought up, the power of these cars as well is also going to play a factor, and the accordion that Elliot kind of talked about a little bit, where these cars can get bunched up from time to time, and really don't need as much clean air and aero. So that's obviously going to play a fact in here too. And I would honestly probably going to see these first 5, maybe 10 laps or so would be a little tame, but I feel like once we hit that halfway marker or even a little bit before then, that's where I think, everybody's going to bring out the elbows a little bit more, get a little more beating and banging in there, and I definitely think it's going to be, very action-packed one because, of course, you have some guys in this field that want to make that show next week, and it's, pretty important to some of them as well.
Yeah, we're just getting some notes on it. It looks like Adam Sweet's going to be our pole sitter in this race. It was originally AJ Green, so just a last-minute change. It's always keeping us on our toes here, but it's kind of nice to be in a second duel when it comes to this because now you probably know what you have to do. If you're somebody that was on the fringe of the points position, okay, now I know I'm not getting a point spot because other drivers are using them. I need to go, race my way up there, or maybe you do have, like we talked about just before this race, is having the ability to fall back on points. Maybe that changes how you drive in this race, so it'll be fun.
Most definitely. We are waiting for the last few cars here to grid up. And again, if you're just tuning in, glad to have you as duel number 2 here of OSRL getting ready to kick off here. Again, this will set up the people who get into the first race of the season at Daytona, which will be next week as well. We've been talking about it all broadcasts so far about how it is important for some of these people to make it into the show next week, and also to, for some of these people as well, as Brill even brought up, if you don't make the race next week, not a huge deal, especially if you're trying to race for a championship and points wise, because we have seen people, make their way up through the point standings with not really attending too many races. But of course, you want to lock yourself in and set yourself up really good for the championship, and it all starts here with the very first race of the season, and even these duels.
It's like any racing series and league. It's so much easier to not have to dig out of a hole at the start of the season, and whether that's even some of these guys that are maybe going to transfer in, and you transfer in. And you're excited that you got in, but then all of a sudden something happens in the race, and next thing you know, you're not getting a lot of points anyways. So it doesn't guarantee by any means that you're when you make the show that you're gonna score a bunch of points, but it's definitely the only way you can score points, because if you're sitting on the bench, you're not going to get anything. So we're ready to see the cars roll off. It looks like.
Yeah, and the cars are rolling.
I got the 38 car still on pit road. Looks like he has not taken off yet. He's going to start at the back of the pack if he gets rolling.
Yeah, that'll be the 38 of Adam Sweet, who did not grid up. I don't know if he has an issue or did not grid up in time, but he'll be, like Aiden just pointed out, we'll be starting from the pit lane and starting from the back of the pack. But, I mean, I've been talking about it all so far. It is Daytona, so you never know what is going to happen. And, a few crashes and a few cautions come out, Sweet can be back up into the running for this as well.
He's got the provisional pole, so all he's got to do is start, and he'll start outside pole next week.
Yeah, so we could even see a situation where, he takes the green flag and parks it. So we'll have to wait and see.
I saw him talking on Discord earlier, saying that he was not a fan of dual races, so
maybe that it does have something to do with it. But we'll go ahead and list off our starting grid here for the second duel. Like we just mentioned, Adam Sweet will not be starting on pole. That'll be the 20 of Carpenter will move up into the first spot for the race, and just also has the 01 in the right beside him, which that will be Ashton Lawson, who, again, a familiar name. If you are a regular here of watching Split Second Broadcasting, can be a pretty familiar name if you watch the Great Lakes Truck Series, but he'll be starting out there on the inside row. His car will dive off. Are you ready? And green flag is out. We're rolling here for the second duel of OSLR. Beautiful jump there by that outside lane, and Kendall Carpenter as they go into turn one. But Ashton Lawson will bring it back to even as he'll be pulling on him now. So all rolling here. We did see that outside line get a little bit of a jump there on the restart there, Ross, but now as you see that inside line starting to get a good run here early on in this race as they head down the backstretch.
Yeah, it seemed like in that first duel that there was a little bit of almost like swapping back and forth between the leaders at times. All of a sudden, the bottom lane gets, kind of bunched together and they take off, and the top lane maybe gets a run. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if some of these guys will swap the lead a couple times like that last race, or we can get any single file racing. But 2x2 so far looks like just a pace lap up to speed.
Yeah, and as we come to the line, Ashton Lawson will lead the pack. He will be the leader here as he's still pulling on there the outside lane of Carpenter. Of course, he has the 21 of Gibson right behind there of Lawson as they head right back down the backstretch. And of course, like I mentioned, and of course also you mentioned, Ross, I think this is honestly a nice little pacing here going on. Don't want to do anything too early and obviously not only ruin your race, but also ruin somebody else's race around you. These guys head through turn number 4.
Yeah, it looked like Baker's doing a great job of trying, at least that last lap, of pushing Carpenter up there. But then in 3 and 4, he got really high, and it's kind of all over the place. So it's you got to be very clean with your bumper to bumper. Though it's not maybe much of a push, just being there to push them up through there. See if you can get back up to the 20.
Yeah, because especially with these cars, I feel like if you just hit somebody ever so wrong in the back bumper, it could very easily upset the car in front of you and possibly even collect the field and start an incident. So still 2 wide, 3 rows back. So
and
number 6. You
got those. We talked about it. Those front cars can kind of almost hold their ground up there when they get side by side like this. But shout out to a couple drivers. Ryan Vargas, a familiar face if you watch real life racing rather than the virtual racing, up 15 spots since the start of this race already. So as much as we thought, starting up front, that's a key to this. It's cool to see some guys moving forward and then taking the opportunity to maybe catch some of these guys just riding. But he's going through the middle, 3 wide. Like another couple of positions picked up there.
Yeah, absolutely wasting no time. Vargas, like you mentioned, up into the 6th spot for him. As we see another 3 wide there, right behind him with the 35, 6, and the 8, but they will clear him back to 2 wide racing here. It'll be lap number 5 at the line.
And that last lap there, Lawson was able to kind of get cleared of the lead, kind of probably the biggest lead that he's had or anyone's had so far in this duel. Now kind of doing it again this time down the backstretch. Seems like that inside lane's staying a little bit better together.
Yeah, I think honestly too, the 21 behind him of Gibson is also helping a lot, giving him a nice little shove in between the corners and going into the corners as well. As Lawson will actually jet out in front there, have about a full car length lead of the car to his outside as they come to the line. So again, some guys just playing it patient here. Unlike Vargas, we saw him. He's up into the 5th position now on that outside lane as he's looking to get a little bit into the mix here. This is a good job from him. Like you mentioned, Ross started towards the back of the pack. Now sitting within the top 10. You see her going out on the backstretch. The front 4 cars in this lead pack will get a little jump up here as the number 20 of Carpenter will jut out to the lead.
And like I said, that first duel, it seemed like they swapped the lead back and forth with a couple of those guys up front. And I think it's kind of fun. It's something that you maybe kind of show the other guy like, hey, I'm here. I'm gonna go lead this lap, and then they want it back. Of course, they're all racers. Let's go for it.
Yeah. So sometimes it's like a little dance, but I think these guys. I mean, Hunter also mentioned it before this race got started. Normally with the duels, is one race is completely hectic, and the other race not so much. I think too for a lot of these guys, they're playing it safe. As some of them, have to rely on points to get in, like I mentioned. Some of these guys too just want to make sure they have a good finish going into the duel or going into the show next week and securing their spot. So I think if you're, this early in the race, you still kind of play it like you are, and there's really no point if you are Carpenter in the 20 car in the outside lane to kind of be going back and forth and kind of switching back and forth with Lawson, who pretty much up to this point has led every single lap, I think, except one. So, just kind of playing your card, just seeing how everything squares away. I mean, we got plenty of race left, so there's no need really to push it too hard.
To note our pole sitter Adam Sweet was, like I said, just had to start, and he did leave pit road, and he's making laps by himself. Another one, Scotty Sprinkle is also lost the draft, but hopefully hoping for a caution to get back in this. Got 3 wide now.
Ooh.
Looks like the 33 Isaac Johnson, the 8 of Ashton Rice.
And a little dicey there too from the number 28 in the M&M's car. Got a
On the
little bit
wall.
loose coming through that turn, as things now get a little dicey here.
Jumping 3 wide, which is great. It's awesome to see. Now Vargas was able to drive through there through the middle, and now he's got competition from the outside.
Look at the run there by the 28 of Ian Smith. See if it sends it 3 wide there with the 51. Got a nice run there on the front stretch going into turn 1 and 2. Because, he was towards this middle of the pack. And now, shot up. But he is all by himself. He does have a car kind of jumping up out with there as they make contact a little further back in the field. Everybody keeps it straight.
It's wild how Smith was able to get up there as Lawson jumps to the inside for the lead. Kind of by himself, and even stay there a little bit. That was an impressive move.
I mean, he's still kind of keeping pace. He's right up there next to Vargas. As well at the 04 in the low side as they sends it now 3 wide. But I mean, again, we talked about the horsepower of these cars. It's going to help you a little bit, and sometimes you don't really have to rely on the draft a whole lot. Obviously, it does help.
And
I believe that's the 70 along with Smith there on that very high side. About a car back or so.
And that's Harry Grindel, who's top 3 in points last year, so locked in, but here to put on a show for us, which is great. We'll take that.
Here comes a run from the 51 of Baker to the outside of Carpenter. He has Vargas there behind him.
Yeah, Baker's been pretty much a pusher this whole. Oh, now we got a couple in the wall. Our guys trying to get that third lane going. That's part of the risk of going up there and trying that is you hit a bump just a little wrong. It's really hard to keep it off the wall sometimes.
Yeah, we saw Smith get in the wall a little bit as well as the 70, and also the issue with that high line, trying to force it 3 wide is. Some of these people that are running either the middle lane or that bottom lane are kind of like, just good where I am, just chugging along, so to say, and they don't want to risk anything because, like you mentioned, you hit one wrong bump there on that very high side, it could be the end of your race. You see down the front stretch, Ashton Lawson getting a nice little run there. As he'll clear Carpenter for the lead once again. So we're seeing a little bit now of back and forth with 9 laps to go.
Lots of chatter on the radio, guys. Ryan Vargas is asking for the 6 car of Jackson Connell to push up behind him, give him a little bump.
Yeah, I think honestly, if Vargas wants a shot here, making a move up here to these leaders, I think the number 6 car of Connell kind of needs to link up with him a little bit. Or if even Vargas can find a way to get down to that bottom lane, and possibly that could also be a little bit of a benefactor. But now he's actually making a pretty nice run here. So we get to 8 laps to go.
And they're coming up on lap traffic. Watch out.
Yeah, it's always a scary thing, Ross, coming into lap traffic here at Daytona. So how can we be careful here if you are the leaders, as this lap car is going to catch, they're going to catch him here on the backstretch.
Looks like he's going to go high, but yeah, talking about the now he's going to jump down to the apron. Yeah, it's talking about Vargas just asking for some more help. If you're the 6 or I think the 35, some of these guys that are right in that 7th, 8th, right in that might be right where you want to be. So going up there and pushing the guy in front of you to mix it up and maybe get it 2 or 3 wide, has more opportunity to have a incident happen. You got some of these guys just want to probably transfer. So different agendas can kind of mess with the plan. It's interesting to hear Aiden's report there on the thoughts on the radio.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you finish, I believe, the top 11, 12th position, you will make that transfer spot. So some of these guys that are running in the middle of the pack are probably perfectly content where they are. And that's, but Ryan Vargas races in real life, so he probably wants to keep his winning ways going. But I think if you are the 6, the 35, the 33 back there, you're pretty much content and don't really want to move up too much, risk causing an incident here, as they will come to the line with 6 laps to go.
Another driver that started in the back that's on the fringe of transferring is Alexander Balderas in the 95, just right outside the transfer right now. Now we got those guys jumping back up, the 70 and the 28. Harry Grindell and Ian Smith. It's they got in the wall a few laps ago, but back at it. I love it. It's awesome to see that third lane. We'll see if they can get up there and battle for this one. Now that 6 is going to jump to the outside. Yeah. Here we go. This is maybe the 6 was just waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, possibly, because again, that high line, it can work out pretty well as the 33 almost getting into the 70 there. It can work pretty well. You just need to be able to have the cars to make that line work. I think if they get about one more, but we will see the 6 actually dive back into that middle lane as it kind of just stalled out there for a little bit. Not really much momentum going for them. But again, we saw Smith and the 70 try to make it work earlier in the race, but not a whole lot of takers on that one.
And meanwhile, these two leaders are side by side most laps. It's been fun to see them kind of swap back and forth.
Yeah, a little bit of back and forth here between the two drivers as we come to the closing stages of this race. As they'll cross the line here momentarily, as there'll be 4 laps to go. And I think this is where, a little squirrely in the middle of the pack. As the 6 and the 70 almost get together. And that'll kill their momentum a little bit. And they'll make a little bit of a gap here between these mid-pack cars and the cars towards the front. And like I mentioned here, Ross, I think this is about the time where we're going to see people bring out the elbows a little bit, especially if you're in the middle of the pack. You are a little bit worrisome that you're not going to make the transfer spot.
That was a nice save by a couple people there, including the 16 of Ruby Estes. It seemed like there was like 2 or 3 moments of a wreck happening there. They're still side by side up front. This is awesome to see Lawson and Carpenter battle this out. But trying to watch both races, it's awesome to see. Going to come to 3 to go this time. It'll be interesting to see if somebody can break up these front 2 at the front.
Yeah, as you look further back in the pack, the 6, the 70, all those guys back there are getting a little more action there. The 16 involved there as well, as they were coming down the front stretch, almost beating it into each other just a little bit. As almost this is the point to go.
We got more chatter on the radio, guys. 16 apologizing for some worn-out tires. And the 26, a little mad at the 20 up at front of the top lane. Thinks he's kind of weighing the top lane down a little bit.
Always great to hear. Nothing better than drivers mad at each other. That makes our jobs fun. But now we got three cars up on the top lane. Some new faces up there. It looks like it. It's just not working. 2 to go.
Yeah, again, I think honestly, if they want to make that really high line work, they're going to need a couple extra cars up there. But the max that I've really seen is about 3 cars or so jump up there. But I think for that high line really to work, I think it's a little too late for that to happen, but they need more cars up there. That is the 14 trying to make it work. I believe of Gavin Fitzgerald. And we'll be coming to the white flag here, is sending it 3 wide here in the middle, right behind the leaders. It's a 51, and Vargas there on the high line with the 33 behind him. But Ashton Lawson sticking out there front as Carpenter throws a huge block to the outside lane.
Remember Aiden's report, there's some bad blood there as far as working together. It'll be interesting to see. Final lap into turn 1. 3 wide all through the whole pack.
Oof. And Ashton Lawson will lead the pack to the white flag as Vargas trying to make that high side stick. As the 51, they get a little squirrely as the 51 trying to block the 48. We're going to go 4 wide here, Ross.
4 wide. Our 2 leaders are still out front, and everybody wants a taste of that lead. It's going to be, can they get through 3? We got a 1 in the wall.
Oh, the 33 in the wall, but he'll save it. Oh, another car into the wall. The 6 gets turned. We have a wreck in the back, but it's not going to mean anything as the checker flag will come out. Ashton Lawson leading him to the line, and he will get it. So Ashton Lawson will take the checkered flag. I believe Kendall Carpenter will come in second place, but we saw an incident there towards the end coming just out of turn 4. As I believe the number 6 car of Jackson Cannell got involved with that one. But Ashton Lawson will pick up the second dual win here, and we'll probably take a look back here in a second about what happened in that incident.
It truly, based on the results, it really is, if you got through that wreck, you advanced. So it seems the top 11 finishers were the ones that were still in the gas coming off of 4 through that wreck and able. There was another kind of wreck post finish line there, but yeah, all the way to Ian Smith would be the first one in, and it looks like Ashton Rice might be the first one out.
So here we'll see I believe the finish here of the race is Ashton Lawson getting ready to burn it down a little bit with his dual win. We see here, Ashton Lawson did a good job just to fight off pretty much any run that he could. The 21 tried to look into the outside of him, but able to fight it off. And the 21, I think, perfectly content with just tucking in behind him. Of course, Kendall Carpenter really didn't have much either there at the end, as some of his momentum got killed, as the 51, who's been linked up with him pretty much the entire race, kind of fell back off of his bumper about a car and a half.
Yeah, the 21 of Stephen Gibson was kind of a great pusher, able to basically help Ashton there at the end, and really throughout the race. Like you said, maybe content with just making sure he transferred in, but it was kind of the key to the end. The incident here, a lot of these guys, if they don't have points, are going to be hurting because they are going to be out of next week's race.
Fortunately for those that got involved with that incident, because there's some of them, they couldn't bank on the points to get into the race, like you mentioned, Ross, and a little heartbreaking to see, especially, Jackson Cannell kind of running up there towards the front the entire race. You see him get turned there as the 14 got into the wall a little bit. Take another look at it here. The 4 wide there was insane, but it pretty much, you see the 33 get into the wall, and then the 14 will come down on to Cannell. Now pretty much, I think, collect most of the field here.
Just a little side note, that 14 has the wrong number on it. That is the 95 of Alexander Balderas.
Oh, well, thank you for that correction there, Aiden. So unfortunate to see is a 33 also flipping up in the air.
He got some air on that.
And some major air time on that one. Luckily, we are in virtual race cars, so everybody will be okay.
Good news for the 33. That is Isaac Johnson. He is going to get in on points unofficially to next week's race. So roll out the backup car, because I don't think that one's going to be raceable next week. But the 33 is going to still transfer in, along with Harry Grindell and Nolan Sanford, or others that were either collected or didn't finish in that front pack there, that can fall back on points and still transfer in.
And the other guy too, Adam Sweet, will also transfer in, as we saw him, start from the pits. I think he'll get the provisional second place for next week's race either anyway. But he just pretty much started the race, and that was his transfer spot. So you had some people in this race that, they just had to finish it or, just start it, and they were in to this one.
Yeah, it sounds like our boys from the first duel are going to join us back in the booth here in a moment. It's we talked about it before this one. Sometimes in real life, the duel races at Daytona, it seems like one is crazy and the other one is calm, and we kind of got that. That's crazy how that worked out.
Yeah, the back end of that race got a little bit hectic because, like we said before, the guys in that middle back of the packish, really the ones that were kind of, beating and banging a little bit. And I kind of said it too before the race starts. When the laps start winding down, that's where you'll see more of the aggressiveness come out. And of course, too, you had guys that were kind of like Vargas, who drove his way up through the field, kind of also trying to get a better position as well. He'll come into 8th here as we see the unofficial results. As you know, Ashton Lawson, our race winner, and Carpenter, Gibson, Newton, Wood, Baker, Yanich, Vargas, Stuckwich, and Farrell all rounding out the top 10. But I do believe, standing by, we do have our race winner, Ashton Lawson. We'll pull him in here. Ashton Lawson with us in the booth. How'd it feel there, Ashton, to win this second duel, lock in your spot for next week's race?
Felt great. Starting where I did really was the key. The bottom rolled the whole race, and just a small little block at the end of it to slow the momentum, and that was all I needed. It was great.
Yeah, starting position, pretty much everything here. As we saw you kind of going back and forth there with Kendall Carpenter as the laps, started to wind down. Was there anything going to that, or pretty much you were just fine with going back and forth with him throughout the entirety of the race?
Well, I noticed every time he'd come off of 4, there's a big bump down on the bottom, and if you're not anticipating it, you're going to slide right up. Every time he'd clear me going into 3, he would slide up out of 4, so every time it allowed me to get back underneath of him. So I felt like that was a key for me to be able to hold him off. And hopefully he watches a race and goes and learns from his mistake, because I honestly think it might have been a lot more difficult for me to win if he was able to hold it to the bottom.
Yeah, most definitely. And it was exciting to see, of course, as well. You also participate in the Great Lakes Truck Series, so it's also nice to see those that frequently watch here at Split Second, also to see your name in this racing series as well, and pick up a win and lock your spot into next week's race. So congratulations on that, and we look forward to also seeing you next week, and hopefully for a good run there as well.
Thank you. Have a good one.
So Ashton Lawson, ladies and gentlemen, your race winner here for the second duel. And I think now here, Ross, we're going to get our boys back here into the booth along with us as well to kind of wrap up here both these races, talk about a little bit. So Hunter Brittle, Elliot Henderson. Of course, we have Aiden DuPont with us as well. So, boys, that race, not as exciting as the first one. Didn't see as much beating and banging, but still an exciting one nonetheless, especially with 5 laps to go. I'm just curious to see what you guys have and your thoughts about that race.
I would argue that this one was more exciting than the first duel, because we didn't have any cautions. That it kept the racing going all race long for those full 20 laps. The only wreck that we had was that big one that took out the back half of the field and really ensured who was going to transfer and who wasn't there coming off of 4. I mean, I was sitting there with my mic silent, just freaking out, wishing I could commentate this one as well, because of how many, like the absolute magnitude of moves all over the field. Ashton throwing blocks up at the front. Ruby Estes with the tires, having to fight that, watching them just absolutely manhandle that car through the turns, and then the guys up on the top side making it work. I believe that was, what was that, the 30? No, it wasn't the 38 of Adam Sweet.
It was the 6 of Jackson Connell, as well as the 70 was up there, a little bit of Harry Grindle. I believe even Ryan Vargas even hopped up there the high side at one point as well.
Yeah, those guys. I absolutely love a top side line. I think it's one of the coolest things to just get more speed and absolutely rip the outside lane there. And Elliot, maybe you can attest to that as well. But it's so cool to watch that single car or two or three car team just absolutely blast their way up towards the front and make it a really interesting race throughout the entire time. It was awesome to watch here from the booth.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I don't know. Maybe Ian Smith may have made friends. Maybe he made enemies tonight, but I think he made everyone aware of what the possibility is up top. We talked about it before Duel 1, just the fact that the top of the track's a little bit smoother and there's not a lot of room up there, but if it's not 3 wide and you can go up there and run, I think as a top lane, what you want to do is really go all the way to the wall and get that run off the corner, because he was making that work so well, and was able to drive all the way up to nearly make it 3 wide for the lead, but it was 3 wide for that second row. at a minimum. But yeah, I think to that point, and then the other point of watching Ryan Vargas, that's 2 races. We had the guy that started dead last locked themselves in. Taylor Lonan obviously finished 12th in the first heat, or in the first duel. Ryan Vargas went from 22nd all the way up to as high as about 4th or 5th there. I think he wound up about 6th or 7th after all the mayhem on the last lap happened. But it just goes to show that whether you get a caution-filled race or whether it's green flag all the way through, these guys that start at the back can make their way up to the front, and I think that's really exciting for next week's race, because it's obviously a lot longer. You don't have to do it in 20 laps, and we can watch these guys meticulously work their way up through the field and do it in multiple ways, from the bottom, from the top, the middle. Everybody was kind of doing it their own way. We saw that from Ian and Vargas both doing it 2 different ways there. So looking forward to next week, and I think with this was just a taste, but I agree that both of these went off really well. One had cautions, the other one didn't, but I think both were exciting in their own right.
Yeah, that was the one thing, honestly, that I was a little worried about with watching y'all's first race, is how many cautions there were. I think about 4 or 5, but this one's action-packed. I think you hit it right on the head, Elliot. This is just a, brief synopsis of what the season is going to be like here in the ORSL. And honestly, I'm excited for next week as well.
Definitely next week. Just already shaping up to be an absolute barn burner of a race here. 200 miles next week. Next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel on the Split Second Broadcasting Network. You guys ran through the top 10 on that when you had the graphic up there, but the 11th place finisher Ian T. Smith claiming that last transfer spot, and then we'll have to wait and see based on math and metrics who those 7 points finishers were to round out this field that will race next Tuesday on the Split Second Broadcasting Network here. 200 miles at Daytona. That'll just about do it for everybody here at Split Second Broadcasting. Like I said, we will see you back here at the same time for next week's race to kick off the first points race of the OSRL Premier Series. I've been Hunter Brittle. These guys up in the booth have been phenomenal calling both races, and our whole broadcast team, Jeff Johnson back running the shots behind the scenes. Been a great night. Put on a great show. Everybody on track has been doing absolutely phenomenal, and we look forward to next week's race at Daytona right back here. So for the final time, this has been the OSRL Premier Series on Split Second Broadcasting. Signing off. Thank you and good night.
Where nothing was blocking me. I was the problem, the only one stopping me. I didn't like it, I had to refocus. Now I'm devoted, I know where I'm going. Controlling emotions, I'm owning the moment. In order to get it, see, you gotta want it. Don't make a living break. Confessions over these 808s. Don't sleep on the key, better stay away. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'ma be the best. Came from the endless lane wall games, bitch with the chest. Beating on my chest, trying to get my rest. Watch me while I flex. Every win is a blessing, and every L is a lesson. So when I run into rejection, I know it's only redirection. I see the blessings right beside me. The chances of quitting are likely. I do it like I'm in my Nikes. Don't make excuses, they never excite me. Quitting was never an option.